Okay, so Red Dead Redemption 2, the title literally has the word redemption in it. And for most of the game, you're probably thinking, yeah, this is Arthur's redemption arc. He's a bad guy becoming good. Classic story. We've seen it 1,000 times, except that's not what's happening. Not really, because Arthur Morgan doesn't redeem himself. He can't. His past is too heavy, too soaked in blood. What actually happens is quieter and honestly more devastating. Arthur learns to accept who he is, what he's done, and what little time he has left. That's a completely different thing. And I think understanding that difference is what makes RDR2 hit as hard as it does. Let me walk through this. Redemption means change. Acceptance means truth. When we talk about redemption in stories, we usually mean transformation. The villain sees the error of their ways and becomes good. Scrooge wakes up on Christmas morning a changed man. Darth Vader throws the Emperor down a shaft and saves his son. It's about erasing who you were and becoming someone better. But Arthur doesn't do that. Even at the end of the game, when he's helping John escape, when he's making these sacrifices, he's still Arthur Morgan. He's still the enforcer who spent 20 years robbing and killing for Dutch van der Linde. He didn't transform into a saint. He finally looked at himself honestly. And I think that's harder than redemption. Redemption lets you off the hook in a way. You were bad, now you're good, fresh start. Acceptance says, no, you were bad. You're still kind of bad. You can't undo what you did. But maybe you can face it. Maybe you can stop lying to yourself about it. Arthur's arc is him peeling back all the justifications he's been using his whole life. We're outlaws, that's what we do. Dutch has a plan. We're Robin Hood, stealing from the rich. All these stories he told himself to avoid looking at the reality that he's a killer working for a man whose plans never work out. The game's power isn't in Arthur becoming good, it's in Arthur becoming aware. And there's something really painful about that kind of honesty. The diagnosis that changes everything. So tuberculosis, the moment Arthur gets diagnosed, and if you somehow don't know, spoiler warning I guess, but the game's been out for 6 years, everything shifts. And it's not subtle. The game literally changes after that point. The world gets hazier. Arthur starts coughing in cutscenes. His face gets gaunt. You can feel him dying as you play. But tuberculosis isn't just there for drama. It's a narrative device that forces Arthur to confront mortality in a way he never had to before. When you're young and strong and you've survived 100 gunfights, death is abstract. It's something that happens to other people. You always think you've got time. Then you get diagnosed with a terminal illness and suddenly time is very real and very limited. Arthur can't outrun this, can't shoot his way out, can't wait for Dutch to come up with a plan. He's dying and there's nothing he can do about it except decide how he's going to spend whatever time he has left. And that's when he stops trying to redeem himself because there's not enough time for that anyway, and starts trying to accept what his life was and do something meaningful with the end of it. And watching Arthur grapple with that question is devastating because he doesn't have good answers. He just has John. He has helping people where he can. He has these small gestures that won't erase 20 years of violence, but there's something. They're honest. Dutch won't let go. The contrast between Arthur and Dutch is everything in this game. Dutch van der Linde is a man who refuses to accept reality. The world is changing around him, civilization is spreading, the frontier is closing, the age of outlaws is over, and he just won't see it. He keeps talking about Tahiti, about one more score, about loyalty and faith and having a goddamn plan. But he doesn't have a plan. He's flailing. He's a con man who started believing his own con, and now he can't stop because stopping means admitting he was wrong. That all of this, the gang, the philosophy, the we're freedom fighters narrative was built on nothing. Arthur starts the game believing in Dutch completely. He's devoted. He's been with Dutch since he was a kid. Dutch raised him. So when Dutch says have faith, Arthur has faith. But as the game goes on, as the plans keep failing, as more people die, as Dutch makes increasingly erratic decisions, Arthur starts seeing it. The Emperor has no clothes. Dutch is just a charismatic man who's good at convincing people to follow him off cliffs. And the split between them isn't dramatic betrayal. It's Arthur quietly realizing he can't follow Dutch anymore. Not because Dutch became evil, he was always this way, but because Arthur finally sees him clearly. Dutch's tragedy is denial. He'd rather destroy everything than admit he was wrong. He'd rather drag the whole gang down than accept that the world moved on without him. Arthur's peace comes from the opposite. He lets go. He stops defending Dutch, stops defending himself, stops pretending any of this was noble or heroic. It was just survival. And now it's over. The world is moving on. The environment in RDR2 is doing something really specific. You're watching the West die in real time. You've got Saint Denis with its electric lights and factories. You've got the railroad expanding. You've got Pinkertons with modern weapons hunting you down. Law enforcement is getting organized. The frontier, the wild, lawless space where people like Arthur and Dutch could exist, it's closing. And the gang is a relic. They're dinosaurs. They belong to a version of America that's already gone, and they're too stubborn or too broken to adapt. There's this recurring theme throughout the game of progress as inevitable. You can rob all the trains you want, but more trains will come. You can kill lawmen, but more lawmen will come. You can run west, but eventually you run out of west. The game isn't glorifying the outlaw life, it's showing you the end of it, and making you feel that loss even as you understand it's probably for the best. Because yeah, these guys are criminals, they hurt people, the world getting more civilized and lawful is objectively good, but there's still something sad about watching a way of life disappear, even a way of life that was violent and unsustainable. Arthur and the gang can't redeem the Old West, can't bring it back. They can only come to terms with the fact that it's dead and they're fossils walking around in a world that doesn't want them anymore. The landscape becomes this symbol, these beautiful wide open spaces that are slowly getting fenced in, built over, tamed. Arthur rides through it all knowing he's part of what's being erased. And I think that's why the game feels so melancholy, even when you're just riding around doing nothing. The world itself is grieving. What Arthur actually achieves. So if Arthur doesn't redeem himself, what does he do? He helps John escape. He makes sure John and Abigail and Jack have a chance at a normal life. He settles what debts he can. He tries to be kind to the people he meets in his final days. He faces Micah and Dutch one last time. And then he dies. Either from tuberculosis or from Micah's gun, depending on your honor level. That's it. That's what his arc amounts to. And it's not a grand redemption. He didn't save the world, didn't undo his sins. Most of the people he killed are still dead. Most of the damage he caused is still there, but he accepted it. He looked at his life without flinching and decided that even though he couldn't fix it, he could end it with a little bit of grace, a little bit of honesty. Helping John isn't about earning redemption points, it's just... It's the one good thing he can do, and doing it doesn't erase anything else. It just exists alongside everything else. The bad and the good, all part of the same person. The peace Arthur finds, and you can see it in his face during the final mission, especially if you have high honor, isn't the peace of someone who's been forgiven. It's the peace of someone who's stopped running from the truth. He knows what he is. He knows what he did. And he's made his peace with dying as that person. That's acceptance. That's the whole arc. Why this hits harder than redemption? I think redemption stories are comforting. They tell us people can change, that mistakes don't define you, that you can always become better. And those are nice ideas. Sometimes they're even true. But acceptance stories, those are harder because they don't promise transformation. They promise truth. And truth isn't always uplifting. Arthur Morgan is a killer. He's been a violent criminal his entire adult life. And in his final weeks, he tries to do better, tries to help where he can, but he's still fundamentally the same person. His hands are still bloody, his past is still there. What changes is his relationship to that past. He stops justifying it, stops hiding from it, just owns it. Yeah, this is who I was, this is what I did, and now I'm dying and there's nothing I can do about any of it except try to leave something decent behind. RDR2 doesn't give you the fantasy of becoming a saint, it gives you the reality of becoming honest with yourself. And for a video game, a medium built on power fantasies and hero journeys, that's kind of radical. The final scene, that scene destroys me every time because it's so quiet emotionally. Arthur's not having a big dramatic moment of transformation, he's just tired and sick and ready for it to be over, but he's gonna see it through because that's all that's left. The game is called Red Dead Redemption 2, but Arthur's story isn't about redemption, it's about a man learning to stop lying to himself, learning to accept his life for what it was, the good and the bad all tangled together, and in the end, making one honest choice, helping John escape. Not because it fixes anything, but because it's right, and because Arthur's finally clear-eyed enough to see what right looks like. That's not redemption, that's something quieter and sadder and more real. That's acceptance.